Welcome to Every Mom is an Athlete, the podcast where we believe motherhood is inherently athletic. From lifting car seats to chasing toddlers, your daily life is a workout. I'm Dr. Karlie, pregnancy and postpartum expert, sports chiropractor, strength coach, and mom of three. This is your space for strength, recovery, and real talk in pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. Welcome, Strong Moms. You're in the right place. Hello, Strong Moms. On this episode of Every Mom is an Athlete, I got to interview Dr. Saru Bala. Dr. Bala is a naturopathic doctor specializing in women's health with a focus on menstrual cycle regulation, fertility, and hormone health. She's the founder of a thriving women's health practice and the creator of the Period Solutions Academy, an educational platform dedicated to empowering women with evidence-based, integrative tools to understand and support their bodies. She's been featured in leading media outlets and is known for translating complex science into clear, practical strategies that women and their healthcare providers can immediately apply. Her mission is to change the narrative around women's health from confusion and shame to clarity and empowerment. I had so much fun talking with Dr. Bala, and I actually learned so much about women's hormones. I feel like there's so much miscommunication and confusion in the media right now, and she just does a great job of breaking things down to be so easily understandable. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did recording it. All right. Hello, Strong Moms. I am so excited to introduce Dr. Bala to you today. I was connected with her online from a mutual friend who's also a naturopath. And I'm just so excited because we were just talking before we started recording about everyone is talking about hormones right now and women's hormone health, which is amazing and great. And I'm so glad that we're getting more light shine on how women can improve our wellness and overall well-being, but it's very confusing. So I'm just so excited for you to clear some of that stuff up for us today.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Yes. So you have spoken a little bit about your own journey with gut issues and heavy bleeding and period pain and how that sort of all led you into hormone health. So will you just give us a little backstory on how you got to where you are and what sort of inspired everything that you're doing to help women now?
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of first started out when my mom ended up sick with ovarian cancer when I was in college, and I was kind of on track to just go the conventional route. And after all of that, she did a lot of integrative health, and just seeing the hope and just her life kind of turn around was really, really huge. And I was like, well, I want to do that for other people. And so that kind of led me into looking at, because she worked with an ND for a really long time throughout her cancer journey, and it was really helpful for her. And so I looked into the schools and I just was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. So that's kind of what led me there. And then getting into women's health was really just because learning so much about my body that I had never known while I was in school. I didn't realize were heavy periods. I didn't realize I had period pain that was not normal. And once I started working on all those pieces that we learned about in school, I had periods that I literally didn't know were coming, that I didn't realize were not, running my life anymore. And I was like, hold on, I know this is a huge problem for literally every woman I know. So I know other people are dealing with this too. And all they're getting told is take birth control or deal with it, take pain meds, whatever. So after realizing that and knowing, oh my God, there's so many things that we could do for women to get them periods that aren't miserable and they could just live their life without having to worry about their hormones and periods all the time. I was like, I need to shout this from the rooftops that birth control is not the only answer. So here we are.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. So along those lines, what would you, I know we'll get into it much more, but what are some things where you start with women along this journey? Like if, someone comes to you with exactly what you're talking about, like super heavy periods, super painful, what are some things you just sort of start with?
Yeah, we're always going to start with a really long intake, and I want to know everything about their day. A lot of times you'll go to your doctor and they'll be like, okay, well, your periods are painful. Here's birth control. They don't really ask you what you're eating or what your morning routine looks like or what are you doing in the hour before you go to bed or what do your meals look like? When are you eating? What is the state of mind you're in when you're eating? Like, are you going from one meeting to another and scarfing down a protein bar in between your meals, or are you actually sitting down and being able to digest your food? Like, all of these things matter for your periods too. And I think a lot of women don't realize that. And definitely a lot of doctors aren't giving that time and attention to your day to day. So that's what we go through first is tell me about your poops. Tell me what your food looks like. Tell me how you feel after you eat. Tell me if you're getting a crash in the afternoon. Tell me if you get headaches before your periods. Tell me if you're super irritable and cranky. And tell me, if you're getting hot, all of these things really matter. And if we're not looking at all those pieces, then we're leaving so much on the table for why you're having pain, bleeding, whatever in the first place.
Yeah, I just adore that about naturopathic medicine. I've worked with a naturopath for many, many years, and I just think it's just such a obviously a more holistic intake, right? And more like just looking at all the root causes. And I of course, I just like was diving through all of your Instagram and TikTok and social media, and I just love the way that you explain some of that stuff for women because I think we sort of forget that all those things have an effect on our overall lives and even on our cycles and our hormones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we just kinda go through our lives every day and we're like, "Okay, well, what pill can I take for this
Yeah.
symptom?" Without necessarily thinking about, "Okay, where is this coming from in the first place? Why am I getting headaches every week before my period? Maybe I should look into what's actually happening inside my body," which a lot of people, 1, aren't making that correlation, and 2, they're not getting the resources and support they need. So,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah, talk a little bit more, if you will, about birth control. And, obviously, a lot of women have just been on birth control for many, many years. I have not been on birth control for many years because
Mhm.
it just made me a psychopath. Like all the different kinds. I tried all the things 20 plus years ago, whatever. And I was like, man, this is not for me. But I know a lot of women do that, and especially to control the heaviness of their period and all that sort of thing. So talk a little bit about that and why maybe that is or isn't a great idea.
Yeah, so, the way that birth control works in the first place is something that I think a lot of women need to understand before they get put on it or, are told to be on it. It's just kind of a Band-Aid solution for everything. Like, you say even one mention your period at all, and they're like, "Birth control." Like, my arm hurts, birth control. It's so universal, and it's becoming frustrating because the way that birth control works is it's shutting down your period. If you don't have a period, of course, you're not gonna have period symptoms because you're not having a cycle anymore. You're shutting down ovulation to stop. That's how we're preventing pregnancy, which is the function of birth control. So without a period, you're not gonna have heavy bleeding. Without a real period, you're not gonna have PMS symptoms. Without a real period, you're not gonna have migraines that go with it. Without a real period, you're not gonna have those symptoms that you're dealing with. So that's the thing that you need to know is you're stopping your cycle entirely. You're not having that fluctuation. You're not having your brain talk to your ovaries to tell it to make hormones and have that feedback loop going on. All of that gets shut down. So for a lot of women, that also comes with, I feel really weird inside my body. I don't feel like myself. I'm really depressed or I'm really anxious. Or that also, we know there's a lot of nutrient deficiencies associated with birth control. We know that it alters your gut microbiome. And over time, over several years of using this, you're going to start having maybe gut issues. You're going to have mood issues. Then you want to get off, you want to have a baby, and your brain and ovaries forgot how to communicate with each other because they hadn't been doing it for so long. And then all of those issues that had been swept under the rug are now full of dust bunnies that are kind of poking their head out. And those issues might have gotten worse. Those issues might be new issues. Like you maybe had slightly irregular periods. Now your periods aren't showing up at all. Maybe you had slightly heavy periods. Now they're so heavy that you can't even leave the house. Maybe you had a little bit of cramping and now it's so painful that you can't even think and you're throwing up, right? There are all these things that just worsen because we never addressed why they were happening in the first place. We just said, no more period. We're done here. Let's shut it
Mhm.
down. And now 5, 10 years later, you're like, I feel miserable and I'm not myself anymore.
When you say it like that, it just sounds crazy, doesn't it? That we're like, you know what I think we should do? Let's just stop this entirely natural process that our body goes through.
Right. And I think it's because we've been sold this idea that, oh, we're women, it's going to suck, your periods are miserable. Like, I cannot tell you how how, what's the word I'm trying to say? How not an issue my period is. Like, it
Yeah.
comes, goes, and I don't really think about it other than, oh, let me change my tampon every few hours. Like, that's
Yeah.
really the most I think about my period.
Oh gosh, yeah. I know as I was like I said earlier, just totally fangirling you, I was like, "Oh man, I need to work with her because I am one of those people that although I don't take birth control, my periods I get really crazy PMS. I feel
Mhm.
really depressed like
Mhm.
for about a day or two, and I think over the years and I've tracked it, right? So I can like say to myself rationally like you're not really this like upset about spilling this little bit of coffee or whatever, like I know rationally, but it's still hard. But again, I think like, is that normal? Like, are things like that normal?
So there is some slight changes that happen after ovulation in the week or two before your period starts. You can feel a little bit slower. And the reason being is after we ovulate, our dominant hormone is not estrogen anymore, it's progesterone. And what progesterone does is it wants you to slow down. And
Mm,
the lives that we live, the society that we're in, you don't really get to slow down, right? You have to keep going as hard as you did in the other half of your cycle, too. And in the first half of your cycle, you can handle it. Estrogen is forgiving. Progesterone's not as forgiving. Progesterone will slap you in the face with the shoe and be like, "Can you please slow down? You're not slowing down." And so, of course, you feel
Yeah.
irritable because your body wants to be slower. Your body wants to take it easy. Your body wants to rest a little bit more. Yet you've said yes to 19 different things and you have a social obligation and you're going out to travel and you're jet lagged and then you come back and you have to go back to work and you have all these deadlines you didn't meet and you're in your luteal phase. So it's like, is that normal? Yes, but also, is it what your body is naturally doing? You know what I mean? So there's
Right.
a little bit
Totally.
of both of like, we need to work with our bodies because right now we're just pushing against and fighting against our body of not giving it what it needs, which is slowing down, grounding, rest, consistency, predictability,
Hmm.
regular meals, regular sleep, which if we're not giving it those things, then it's going to come screaming even louder in our second half of our cycle. And that's what those PMS symptoms are.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I can feel that personally, intuitively, right? It's like
Mhm.
part of this is normal, but I can feel that it's like not that, it shouldn't be
Mhm.
that much, right? And I think that
Totally.
explains it a lot is that like
Totally. It's gonna
we're
be
not,
heightened, right.
yeah,
It's gonna be
yeah,
heightened if those routine practices that we should be having to support our body aren't in place on a regular basis.
yeah. You mentioned earlier talking about, women being on birth control for many years and then getting off of it and wanting to get pregnant. So I know that, I just think about growing up in like the 90s and early 2000s of like what we thought would happen, right? When we took birth control and when we got off of it and all this stuff. So, can you like just clear up like, let's say a mom is on birth control, she wants to get off, she wants to get pregnant. What do you recommend people do as they go through that process? I mean, I'm sure it's a much, obviously a much more intricate question, but what are some things to think about where moms could start?
I think that kinda depends on, where you're at. Did you have issues before? Why did you go on birth control in the first place is always what I ask anybody who's on birth control is, did you go on it because you didn't wanna have a baby, or did you go on it because you were having a lot of hormonal issues?
Mm,
Because those are 2 different things entirely. If your periods were fine, you didn't really have issues, you were like, "I just don't wanna get pregnant right now," that usually you're gonna probably have a better time when you get off of birth control. Whereas
mm,
if you were like, "I had a lot of issues going on before going on birth control," I would definitely say let's work on those pieces prior to you getting pregnant. It'll make
mm,
it easier to get pregnant. It'll be easier to have a healthier pregnancy and postpartum recovery time. Especially if you're going to be a second, third, whatever time mom, like more than your first kid. You're probably already got a lot of stress already going on at home. You have one kid already, maybe you have more, and having another kid is just going to add to that. So you really want to make sure that if you had hormonal issues prior to going on birth control, we're really looking at where those came from. Where are you at after getting off of birth control? Let's look at your hormones. Let's make sure things look good so that you have an easier time, right? It's not even about like what's best. It's really about like how can you have the easiest time for yourself, your body? Like you already have another kid at home running around that you got to chase. You can't just lay on the couch like you did for your first pregnancy if
mhm.
you feel miserable, right? Our lives are a
Yes.
little bit more demanding. And so let's make it easy on you so that you don't feel miserable throughout your pregnancy. And the best way to do that is making sure that things look good even prior to pregnancy.
Yeah, I love that. Just a quick pause. If you're feeling like your body doesn't feel like yours anymore after having a baby, if you don't know where to start or you're tired of guessing what's actually safe postpartum, I've got you. I created the Postpartum Restoration Plan to give moms a clear, doctor-designed roadmap to rebuild strength, support their core and pelvic floor, and start feeling strong again. It's just 4 days a week, under 20 minutes, and built for real postpartum life. Whether you're a few weeks or a few years out, it's never too late to start. Click the link in the show notes and I'll walk you through it. So when you're working with women, I know obviously you're working through situational pieces, what their environment looks like, stress, all those different factors. Are you also really addressing, I'm guessing, nutrition and supplementation and that sort of thing? Or like,
Absolutely.
yeah, where do you
Yeah.
start with that?
So I will always ask, what are your goals? That's going to be the most important thing. What are your goals? Is it, less pain, less bleeding, less whatever, getting pregnant, healthy pregnancy? Well, like, where are you at with things? And then we dive into their day to day. So what does it look like when you wake up in the morning? Are you waking up, sitting on your phone for 30 minutes in bed, and then you get out of bed, and then you have coffee first thing, and then you're on an empty stomach running around after your kids, or logging straight into work or whatever it might be? Or are you getting out of bed first thing in the morning, getting some sunlight, going for a walk, then making breakfast, then having coffee, then, taking time, whatever the morning routine might look like. What are you doing in the evening? How are you falling asleep at night? Are you taking forever to fall asleep? Do you have racing thoughts when you're falling asleep? Do you sleep all through the night? Are you waking up in the middle of the night feeling like you're getting a light state of sleep, tossing and turning. Do you wake up with energy? All of these things are really important. And if you're not saying yes to all of these things, that's what we're going to work on. So we'll work on blood sugar regulation. We're going to work on what are you eating? How much are you eating? What does your plate look like? Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough fiber? Do you feel full after you eat? And are you full for the next 3 to 4 hours? Because if you're like, I'm good, and then I crash, and then I eat, and then I have like 3 snacks in between lunch and dinner, that's a problem for your blood sugar that you're going to feel in your luteal phase. You're going to see that show up as PMS. It's not going to be just the afternoon crash and headaches. It's also going to be that week before your period. You're irritable, you're grumpy, you hate everyone around you. You feel like you need all the carbs, all the sugar because your blood sugar is less stable in that time anyway. And the habits that you have are making it worse.
Okay, you said something that I would love to get an explanation for people. I feel like everyone is talking about this on social media about eating before you have your coffee. So can you tell me why we need to eat before we have our coffee?
Honestly, everyone's body is different.
Sure.
And I make this recommendation for a majority of women because I find that it changes their things. A lot of times when I work with someone, they already are struggling with liver metabolism. And having coffee on an empty stomach can often increase those feelings of jitteriness, anxiety, feeling just not themselves. And then that just makes everything worse later. It also is kind of dysregulating your blood sugar a little bit because if we're not having food before having that jolt of caffeine and basically kind of a cortisol spike, then we're ruining and kind of setting up our afternoon for failure. So I really like to say wait at least an hour before you have coffee from when you wake up, and either do it with breakfast or after breakfast. Or at the very least, if you're going to have coffee on an empty stomach, add some protein powder, add some protein, and eat an apple or like some fruit or something. You know what I mean? Like make it easier on your stomach, make it easier on yourself. But I will say whenever people make this change, usually within like a week or two, they're like, oh my God, Dr. Bala, I feel so much better. I feel like I have more energy. I don't even feel like I need my coffee anymore. I have it because I like it, not because I need it. So it's just something to experiment with because we all work in different ways. And if you notice that, hey, I don't get acid reflux and I'm not feeling anxious because I waited a little bit till I had breakfast first, then amazing. It's the easy thing to try.
Again, it's so funny. As I hear you talk about it, like I am totally guilty of drinking my coffee, like, right as I wake up. And now as you're saying that, I'm like, what a weird thing to like wake up from sleep and be like, I need a drug, like basically that is exactly what we're doing, right?
Yes.
But like, I totally do it. So, okay, I am going to report back because I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to wait at least an hour.
Yeah. And you might notice that you're not getting that crash later on because your body is waking up on its own. It will take like a week or two before that might fully set in, but you'll notice like you feel a little bit cleaner is what most people tell me. They're like, I feel like mentally I feel cleaner.
Yeah, let's go. I like it. You did mention cortisol, and that's another sort of buzzword that I want to talk about just because, again, I know that a lot of women are hearing about cortisol and how we need to regulate our cortisol levels and blah, blah, blah. But can you just give us an explanation of what cortisol is, why it's important, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah. So cortisol is like you said, it is a very big buzzword. And here's the thing with cortisol. It's going to fluctuate like hour to hour, day to day. So getting your serum cortisol levels tested isn't going to be that telling of really anything unless you have like an overt pathology. So don't use that as something. Use more the symptoms that you're having. I wake up super groggy. I need caffeine to start my day. I need caffeine to wake me up. I am getting that 2 to 4 p.m. crash. I am taking forever to fall asleep at night. I am waking up between 2 to 4 a.m. every night, feeling awake, and then having trouble falling back asleep. All of those are signs that cortisol, 1, is not winding down as it should at night, and 2, not rising as it should in the morning. If what I just described sounds exactly like you, then we really need to work on how can I get my cortisol awakening response happening in the morning? How can I get my melatonin to rise at night and cortisol to shut down? Those are the two big things we need to talk about because we have that diurnal rhythm, our circadian rhythm, and that's what dictates how we feel. So if you have really low cortisol in the morning when it should be at its highest, of course you're going to feel tired and groggy and just hate having to wake up. And at night, if it's not winding down, you are going to have that middle of the night wake up. You are going to feel like you're barely asleep all night and then feel tired having to wake up. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle that then causes blood sugar issues, which makes you crave more carbs and sugar. And then that's going to throw off cortisol. So then we're just in this like cycle. So that's what I really want to work on with people and what I do work on with people is figuring out that circadian rhythm. So that might look like you wake up in the morning and don't check your phone. You go outside and get sunlight. And I know you're in Seattle and a lot of people will be like, well, I live up north and there is no sun for 6 months of the year. And that's fine. Daylight is still better than nothing. And if you're waking up when it's still really dark outside, then get one of those lights that you can put in your face for 30 minutes in the first hour that you wake up so that you have that stimulus, because light is what tells our eyes to tell our brain to secrete cortisol. So same thing at night, we want darkness to turn off that cortisol so melatonin can rise. And those are really the two most important things, right? Get some sunlight in the morning, and at night, make sure it's really dark. Help your body and your mind wind down. So no screens in bed, no screens an hour before bed. All of those pieces that we hear about all the time, there's a reason that we do those things. And this is it. It's to regulate that circadian rhythm, aka cortisol.
Yes. I think that's super helpful just because I feel like women hear the term cortisol and they're like, oh, bad, right? But no, it's just like another hormone in our body that needs to rise when it's supposed to rise and then drop when it's supposed to drop. And the way we live, it's like high when it's supposed to be low, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people are like, oh, I assume my cortisol is high because I'm always stressed. Honestly, it might be the opposite. It might be that it never actually came up and you're just dragging and using coffee all day to just keep going. So it's not necessarily that it's too high or too low. It's that it's too high when it shouldn't be and it's too low when
Right.
it shouldn't be.
Yeah. So talking about cortisol and just sort of moving into more of like you mentioned, feeling exhausted, feeling moody, some of these things that we think like dragging, needing so much coffee, some of these things that we just sort of assume are like part of mom life. Can you clear up some of those myths for us that like you wish women knew about how their hormones are affecting them?
Yes, I think stress is a really big one, right? I really, not to sound annoying and like constantly keep saying the same thing over and over again, but your cortisol, your nervous system, your stress, whatever you want to call it, it's all kind of the same thing, right? It's really playing a bigger role than most people realize. And I think a lot of people will be like, "Well, I'm not stressed." And then I ask them what their day looks like, and I'm like, "Girl, that sounds pretty stressful to me."
Yeah.
Like they're like, "I wake up and I immediately check my emails." Like that right there is already stressful to me. Like having to wake up and the first thing your brain sees is work. Like I can't. Sorry.
Yeah.
What does the rest of your day look like if work is the first thing that your mind is seeing in the morning? So then, you check your emails while you're still in bed, then you get up and you have your coffee, and then you're rushing around the house, and then you go to work, and then you're rushing from one meeting to the next task, to the next, to the next, to the next. You're talking to people. And then maybe in between that, you're stimulating your brain with scrolling on social media. And then after that, you're eating lunch while you're working or while you're on social media or while you're stimulating yourself in some other way. You're not digesting your food. Then you go home, and if you have kids, you're, making dinner. They're probably loud and they're very stimulating as well. And then you're putting them to bed, and that takes a whole, rigmarole of whatever it is. And then you got to clean the house or whatever you have to do. And it's just one thing after another after another. And while that's just your everyday life, and maybe work was really great that day, and you're like, I don't feel stressed. It's like, well, how is your day? Where's your rest? Do you have time to just sit there and stare at the wall and do nothing, or sit outside and look at the sky for 20 to 30 minutes, or even just close your eyes for 20 minutes and just be still? Because all of that is telling me you're constantly go, go, go. That's a stressor that is going to lead to PMS symptoms worsening, lead to constant carb and sugar cravings, lead to I feel exhausted, I have no libido. Of course you have no libido. Where would you have room for that?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like, okay, is it the chicken or the egg? So now, you're exhausted, falling asleep out of exhaustion, waking up at 2 to 4 a.m. It's this cycle that just continues. So we really want to look at our life and say, where can I build in rest? Where can I build in some time to do nothing? Where can I build in time where I put my phone away completely and I just slow down? Where can I, leave the dishes for a little bit and just sit outside with my kids and do nothing, or just sit outside by myself and do nothing? Like all of those times are going to make a huge difference when we talk about cortisol and nervous system. And when that can come down, our nervous system can be like a big brick wall, and you can throw as many supplements as you want at it. But if that brick wall isn't coming down, nothing's passing the other side. So I really tell people as many supplements as you want to take, it's not going to work if you can't build in rest and actually regulate that cortisol.
Yeah, that is such good advice. I think, as you mentioned, our modern society, that's what we want to do, right? Is like, what supplement can I take? What can I do that's like a quick, easy fix? But it's like that slowing down is the first thing. And no one wants to hear that, right? Because that's not
Nobody wants to hear
sexy.
it. It's hard. It's not sexy and it's hard to do. Are you kidding? Like, I
Mhm.
say this as if I'm great at it. It's hard to put my phone down and sit there and just do nothing. My daughter always says, "Can we go play outside?" And I'm like, 5 more minutes, and 5 more minutes never ends, and then we never went outside. And, like, taking that time to just be intentionally slow is hard, but it does
Mhm.
make a difference. I sleep so much better when I don't have my phone.
Yeah. You said something too that I think a lot of people, again, it's like we hear, oh, you should sit down and eat your meal slowly. Don't eat while you're working, whatever. Can you explain why that is?
Yeah. So when we are going from one thing to the next, we're in that sympathetic fight or flight state of our nervous system. And what we're doing there is we're pulling all of our blood away from our organs and to our muscles and our brain to fight or flight. That's what we're doing. Even if you're not necessarily feeling stress, even if you're not necessarily feeling it, your body is, right? So what we want to do is get into that parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system because that's when our blood flow goes to our gut. We're secreting digestive enzymes. We're secreting more stomach acid. We are getting more circulation to our gut. So we can actually break down our food and it's not getting stuck in our gut so that we're getting bloated and gassy by the end of the day. So that's a really important piece. I always tell people if you're getting gassy and bloated by the end of the day, like after dinner, you feel like there's a brick in your stomach, you feel like there's a balloon in your stomach and it's just stuck. That is because you were probably in that sympathetic state all day when you were eating. Your food never digested. Then you finally come home, you take a minute to just stop, and your rest and digest kicks in. And it's like, hold on, there's all this food in here that we hadn't digested yet. And then you get really bloated. So I always tell people if that's you, do this for 2 weeks, 2 minutes of breathing, 2 to 3 minutes of breathing before you sit down to eat each of your meals. If you don't have 2 to 3 minutes to sit down and do breathing, you probably shouldn't be eating because if you don't even have the 2 minutes to do that, then I'd rather you just not eat than do something like eating a big meal when you're in that sympathetic state because you're gonna feel more gassy, you're gonna feel more bloated. So wait until you have 2 to 3 minutes to sit down, take a few breaths, get into that rest and digest, then eat. You're gonna notice that you're feeling better. You're gonna notice less gas and bloating.
Yeah, I think that is, if there's any takeaway, I mean, obviously you said like a lot of really helpful stuff, but I would love that one's such an easy thing to do,
Easy.
you
Easy,
know?
it's free, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. And I just think it does make a big difference because I know many of my friends. I just came back from this girls trip, right, with 11 of us. And so,
Mhm.
we're all like 40 years old now and we're like all these things going and we're like talking about our symptoms and that's a whole nother episode. But I think it's really common to feel super gassy and bloated and like have that kind of rock hard tummy at the end of the day and not understand why. And this is one of the reasons.
Mhm, absolutely, yeah, I think a lot of women just assume that they have gut issues, and I'm like, "Don't assume that you right off the bat need to do a parasite cleanse, okay? Stop and breathe for 2 minutes before you eat, because guess what? That's free, it's a lot easier to do than have to cut out a bunch of foods and do a parasite cleanse, so start here, and if you notice improvement, then we know that this is a big factor for you."
Yes. Oh, I love that. You and I could talk for many hours and maybe I'd love to get you back on to talk more specifically about some stuff, but I want to be respectful of your time and our audience. So, all that being said, I would just love to sort of end with, if you had just like to give one sort of controversial message for moms about their hormone health, something that sort of goes against common wellness narrative, is there something that you would want them to hear?
Yeah, I would say take more time for yourself. I think mom guilt and mom, like, the pressures that society has on all of us is huge, right? We're like, oh, I can't take 20 minutes to myself to just sit outside because, like I got to cook dinner. I got to hang out with my kids. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like, take the 20 minutes. I was chatting with a friend this week who was like, I had a babysitter come in 3 times a week, even though I'm home, to help with my 2 kids for dinner because it gets chaotic and I just need extra help. Sometimes I just wanna go to the gym. Sometimes I just wanna take time for myself. So don't feel because you can't pour from an empty cup, and this might not be that controversial. I know we hear about this all the time, but sometimes I just need to hear it again, is that your nervous system your kids are feeling whatever your nervous system is at. Right? They respond to where you're at. So if you're always stressed, if you're always feeling go, 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 if you're always feeling like, oh my God, I just need a break, they feel that. So I'd rather you spend an hour away from the kids, even when you feel guilty about it, if that means that you can get some time to do something for yourself. So you can be a calmer, grounded version of yourself for not only you, but also for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. That's not necessarily like controversial, quote unquote, but it is in the way that like you're not doing it, we're not like talking about getting a manicure or,
No.
which like all that stuff is great, but we're talking about it from an actual holistic health, nutritional, like
Right.
you need it. It's not
Right.
like a selfish thing. It's like your
Yeah.
body actually needs it.
Wants it. It's craving it. It needs if your PMS is the worst time of your month, then that's already your body telling you need to slow down a little bit more. Please move slowly is what a friend of mine told me. She says PMS stands for is please move slowly. So
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
so I really love that too. And it's like, well, if you need to bring someone in so that you can have a hot meal for 30 minutes at dinner time, not chaotic, not in a sympathetic state, do it. You need that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Bala. This has been really helpful. Where can everyone find you? How can they work with you? Tell us all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm everywhere. So wherever you like to be, I'm there too. And then I work mostly virtually. I also have a clinic here in Scottsdale. So if you're in Arizona, I'd love to see you in person. If not, I can see you from my computer as well, wherever you are in the country, so that we can make sure that you are getting the periods that you deserve to have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This is going to be really helpful for a lot of moms out there.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Every Mom is an Athlete isn't just a podcast. It's a reminder that you're still the athlete you've always been. If this episode resonated with you, I'd so appreciate it if you'd share with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more moms find the support and information they need. See you next time.